Hello, my friends. How are you doing? I hope you're having an outstanding day. This is Heather. This is a Back to Me podcast. This is my super favorite day of the week because this is when I talk to an awesome person, an awesome celebrity who shares their massive brain power with us to help us be more awesome than we already are. Today is Rebekah Saltzman, and I love that you're a personal organization expert.
That I am.
And I'm going to say it wrong. Balagan, did I say that right?
You said it
Yeah,
right.
Balagan be gone. Personal organization. And first, first let's tell people what Balagan means.
Balagan is the Hebrew word for chaos or disorder.
Right?
Yes. So
um,
you just learned a new
I
language.
just learned a new language. I can say it in Sanskrit, vritti, because I'm a yoga teacher and I know chaos of the brain is vrittis. So that's so cool. And um, I think I can probably guess, but how did you get pulled into this decluttering world?
So when I was in high school, I was a personal shopper.
Wow.
I worked at the Gap, and I had a lot of customers who really loved that I was honest with them about the decisions that they were making in the fitting room. And so I was like, yeah, I'll totally personal shop for you. But then what I realized was I can't buy you stuff if I don't know what you already have. Like, what am I filling in for, right? How can I make you outfits? How can I style you if I don't know what you already have? So I would go to their houses, which in retrospect was kind of dumb for being 16, right? But I did it anyways.
You know.
And I never told my parents. And I realized that I really preferred sorting through the stuff to the shopping part of
Wow.
things. And so I sort of put that on my side hustle while I was in college and after college while I was working. It just sort of was like something I did for fun. I helped my friends. And then in 2012, I read this book called Zero Waste Home by Bea Johnson.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wow, this lady's nuts. And I was like, but wait, maybe she's not so nuts. Maybe having less is actually better. Maybe we can do this. Because we were 5 people living in 2 bedrooms
Oh,
in 900 square feet in New York City. And I was like, this isn't working. So maybe this will work. So I started reading it and I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. And I decluttered like a ton of stuff in our life. And I went towards being zero waste. We are definitely not zero waste, but we have reduced our waste significantly. And I realized I make a product in my day-to-day life that doesn't help anybody really. It's not good for the environment and doesn't leave the world really a better place. So I decided to quit my job after I saw an ad for a couple who was downsizing and needed help, decluttering and figuring out how to organize and manage their move.
wow.
And when I got that job, I quit my job and I started doing that full time. Even just with one client, I'm like, I love this. I'm gonna do it forever. And and I wouldn't say I'm quite doing it forever, but I've been doing it a long time and I really, really enjoy it. I think the biggest thing for me is what I love most about it is seeing how much better people's lives are after they work with me. And even if we only do a small portion of their home during a session, even clearing out that small portion makes such a huge difference that it just like, wow, I put something good in the world today and I made the world a better place. And that feels like I'm fulfilling my purpose here. And that made me just feel like a better member of society.
That is not the story I thought I was going to hear, but I love it. I thought we were going to talk tablecloths, but it's all right. That's
We can
just
talk
it.
about that.
No, no, that's okay. But I love the fact it is kind of funny the things we do when we're teenagers. We're like, in retrospect, was that a really smart thing to do?
No,
But
it was so
you were
stupid. If my kids did it, I'd be so mad.
right. But it was just like you saw something that needed to be done, and you're like, okay, let's just make this happen. And you know, and it worked out okay. You lived. So I always tell people, I
Yeah.
did this when I was a kid. I don't recommend it, but I lived through it. So
Yeah. I mean, also, this was, 25 years ago. It was a little bit of a different kind of situation. And also, sometimes you trust your gut. Like
Yeah.
if I ever felt like I was in a situation that didn't feel right, I would try to extricate myself. But
Oh,
like my parents always, sort of knew where I was, or somebody knew where I was,
right.
I think. And I just feel like, I don't know, nothing felt like these were people who I had seen over and over and over and over again. And just the situation, just, I don't know, but it just felt different.
Yeah, no, I get you. I mean, and they probably loved the fact that you could just come and help them sort things out.
Yeah. And it would like trickle into the rest of the house. And I have to say, like, my expertise, my superpower is in the master bedroom closet.
Really.
That's where I love.
And
But
that's the biggest mess
usually for most people,
for
and that's
most
always
people.
where I like to start when we're decluttering, because I feel like if you can make your room into sanctuary, the rest of the house just sort of falls into line. um I don't I find the rest of the house to be a little more difficult, only because it's much less objective. There's so much more that's sentimental in the rest of the house.
Right.
Whereas like the clothes, they look good or they don't look good. And like either you let them go or you keep them, right? Like there's less room for debate, I
True.
think.
Yeah, there is. And it's interesting. I love the fact that you were like way before the whole Marie Kondo craze. Like all of a sudden everything is, does this bring me joy, decluttering? And it's interesting. She starts with clothes as well, because I will say, decluttering even a little bit will, if you just, it's like, just pull a band-aid off. You'll feel better
Yeah.
afterwards, right? And you do feel better when you're like, you have that room to breathe. But I
Yes.
love the fact you started one way before her. And I know we were discussing at one point how sometimes her strategies aren't so practical for
Right.
for
For
real life.
families.
For real life.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
call
so
real.
we have a fundamental difference, she and I, and that is her method is based in Shinto tradition, and my method is based in Jewish tradition.
Right.
And in Judaism, we have a proverb that says, more possessions, more worry. And fundamentally, what I think is different between the two of our approaches is that she doesn't necessarily, her approach works in the beginning for most people, but the difference is it doesn't necessarily garner long-term results, because she doesn't at her core really deal with the core issue of how you got there in the first place. And
Right.
so it's like kind of like a quick diet fad where you like reduce, but then you haven't dealt with why did you accumulate so much in the first place. And when you get to the heart of that, which is sort of what I do when I'm working with people, not sort of, I do that when I work with people, is key. And that's really what makes it different. How did you get here? Why are you accumulating so much stuff? Is it because the message that we're receiving is, if you buy more, you'll be happier? Is it because you did retail therapy and you couldn't stop yourself? Is it because you didn't realize all the stuff that was coming in? Maybe you didn't bring it in. Maybe it just happened to come in. Someone passed away or something like that, and you just sort of received it, you know?
And then you don't know what to
And
do with it.
exactly, but you feel bad letting go of it, but it's not really yours, So there's a lot of different ways we can accumulate. And the other thing that I felt wasn't so good about her philosophy, or isn't relatable for a lot of people, is that it doesn't I know that she has amended her philosophy now that she has children, but in the beginning it didn't deal with families.
Right.
And most of my clients have upward of 3 children. And when you have a family of 6 or 7 or 9 even, there's a lot of things that you have to do to manage. And most people, when they have kids, they're not saving for like the next baby, let's say.
Right.
But with most of my clients, they have so many kids, they're definitely saving the clothes in between the kids. And so when you have like you know, a 10-year-old boy and a 7-year-old boy and a 4-year-old boy, and there's some girls sprinkled in between, you know, someone's always not using the clothes. There is a lot of stuff, but you know, it doesn't make sense to let it go when the next kid is going to need it, right? Because you already paid for it, so you might as well get your money's worth.
Right.
And so these are the kinds of challenges that my clients are dealing with, and more than that, it's how do you even just practically manage your time when you're dealing with that many people so that everything doesn't become a balagan, everything isn't a big cluttered mess all the time. And the difference is I find that with my method, I force my clients to determine if something that they're going to keep is worthy of a piece of real estate in their home.
Right.
In other words, if you can't find a place for it to live, then it has no business staying in your house. If you don't value it enough to give it a space on the shelf or a space somewhere that's not just moving from place to place, you shouldn't be keeping it. It's not important enough to you.
Right. And that doesn't mean, like, I know people whose basements are so full that they can't get into them. That doesn't mean you can just jam it all down into the basement, right?
Well, the thing is when you do that, you can't find what you want when you want it, if you even remember that you have it at all.
Oh my gosh, right?
You know, and the point in doing decluttering and organization is to be able to quickly find what you need when you need it. Does that mean that I never misplace my keys? No, because life happens, right? Like, I'm not saying I'm perfect or that the system is, you know, flawless. I'm just saying that it makes life easier. And certainly when you know where something's supposed to be, like, let's say I come in and I drop my keys on the side table. Well, if my kids saw them and, you know, they would know that I keep them in my purse, right? So if they saw them on the side table, they might say, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and put these in mommy's purse. And I might go to look on the side table, but in reality, I'll know that they belong in my purse, and that will be the next place I check, right? Because that's where they go. So the same thing with my kids. Like, the kids know when they come home, their backpacks go on the bench next to the door and their shoes need to be lined up, right? Do they do it every time? No. But when I say to them, put your backpack away and tidy your shoes, they absolutely know what that means.
Right.
And that's huge.
Because involving the family in that, because I can remember we had 4 kids. We didn't have that level of organization. I'm scared to tell you what it's like. Can't never find anything. Stuff is everywhere. Oh my gosh, my poor mom.
Yeah, but who wants to live that way? It's
right?
It's not good to have. It doesn't feel good, and it's not healthy to have your cortisol raised all the time.
And sometimes
be stressed out.
Like, even with 2 people. So I know for me, stuff, you know, the levels of clutter go up and down depending on what's going on. But I know I've come to realize that piles of things that I don't know what to do with, even visually, cause me distress.
Yes.
Even on a like subconscious level. And like, why am I in a bad mood? It's like, oh, I've come to realize it's because there's piles of things I don't know what to do with. You know, it's
so someone gave me a bag to give to. So when I was visiting my father, my mother's very good friend. My mother passed away. My mother's very good friend came to see me, and she said, "Would you mind taking this bag back to Israel with you to give to my sister?" And I said, "Sure," because it's very expensive to ship things here, and I had room in my suitcase, of course. So I haven't yet had a chance to connect with her about scheduling a time, and it's sitting on my table and it's driving me bonkers because I'm like looking at something that doesn't even belong to me, and I'm like, oh, please come and pick up your stuff.
It's so true. I always have a big bag. I always have a big bag of things that I'm sending to the Goodwill or the Salvation Army or something. Yeah. And I know that it's there so that I can drop stuff in it, but it still bugs me.
Yes,
that it's there,
me too.
Right? It's so funny. And I think sometimes we don't realize how much mental real estate it does take up. One, when you just have a lot of stuff and you can't, there's no way to keep track of all of your stuff. But at least if you know approximately where to find it, that's super helpful. And
Yeah.
yes, clearing some space. Do you need? I know Marie Kondo was like, does it spark joy? Well, at some point, it can spark joy in my memory.
Yeah.
I don't need
I
to
love
keep
that.
it, right? Because if I
I
kept
think,
everything that sparked joy, I'd have all my toys from when I was a kid still.
right? So I think the question isn't necessarily so much, does it spark joy, as much as, is this a necessary item for me to keep in my day-to-day life? Like, even with sentimental things, I look at them and I'm saying to myself, like, okay, if you want to keep this, then if it's important to you, put it somewhere where you will see it. Don't just leave it in a box. I mean, yes, there are things that we keep in a box, like our letters or whatever like that.
Right.
But like really things that I'm keeping for the sentimental value, like actual objects, they're in use. Like my mom passed away and I took a couple of her dresses. I don't leave them in a box. Yes, they will get used up and eventually I won't be able to wear them anymore and that will be a sad day for me. But the truth is what I needed most was to be wearing those things and using those things to push me through the grief, because when I wore them, I thought of her and I remembered her. And when you use the things that you have, first of all, what is the point of having things that we are not using? Because that means we're taking resources from someone who could need them.
Right.
Like when we hoard things that we're not using or don't need, they serve no
There's
purpose.
that funny,
And
I might
you
need
know,
this just in case kind of
yeah.
thing, right? And I think that comes a bit from like a sense of lack somehow. It's like, what if I need this at
Yes.
some point? Even if
Okay.
why do you have
I'm s-
100 pencils? You don't need 100 pencils unless you
I'm
have
so
10
glad you
kids.
said that. No, I'm really glad you said that, because a lot of people are like, well, this might come in handy.
Right?
So
Oh
I
my
always
gosh.
say to people, if you make space, first of all, my core belief is, if God gave it to you once and you're not using it now, that means the blessing that he blessed you with is over. Like, now pass your blessing on to someone else.
That's good.
That's the first thing. So if you're not using it, but it's still useful, pass on your blessing. If you are interested in having something new come into your life, whatever it is, a new baby, a new partner, a new best friend, a new car, a new amount of money, whatever it is, you have to make space for new and better things to come to your life. You have to make space for abundance to come to you. If you are holding on to old things, new blessing can't come to you. So
Right.
my feeling is always, pass your blessing on to someone else to make room for abundance to come into your life. And it works. And what
I,
I often find is that when people let go of things, they find significant amounts of money.
right. It's so funny. I was doing a decluttering exercise one day, and
Yeah.
this seemed completely insane to me.
Okay.
This woman said, "Just declutter your desk," and I have piles of scrap paper and things. So I'm decluttering. I'm decluttering. In the pile of scrap paper, I found an envelope with $100 in it. I'm like, how is this even possible? Because
Right?
I'm very particular about keeping track of my money. I'm like, how would that even have ended up in that pile? Where did this come from? It was like a sign: declutter your damn desk.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. When you take the step to clear out and make space, physical space, emotional space, spiritual space comes to you, because our stuff brings a lot of baggage with it.
Well, and it has an energy, and
Yeah,
it requires attention. It
it does.
requires your part of your brain power, even if you're not using it, even if it's a just in case thing. It all requires your brain power.
Right,
And
which brings us back to the proverb: more possessions, more worry. Like
that's what I
you
want. I
you
wanted to Say that again because I couldn't remember what it
Yeah.
was.
Right. Like you have these possessions. It's like you're always worried, is something going to happen? Like sometimes and I don't wish this on anybody, but I look at um, the massive storms that hit, the southern United States in this time of the year in August,
Mhm.
September. And I think to myself, like, how awful that must be to have like that serious flooding, and just look at everything being ruined. And I kind of feel like we need stuff to live, we
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
need stuff. The question is are those situations easier to manage when you have fewer items? Or are they, to me, I look at like the devastation of someone's basement in one of those flooding zones,
Oh
and I
my
think
goodness,
like,
right?
if you would have just had less stuff, the cleanup would have been easier.
And it wouldn't have been
And
so heartbreaking for you.
yes, because I mean, it might have still been heartbreaking because probably the stuff that you had, you loved. But I'll give you another example. When we moved from New York to Israel, we took a shipping container. It was a 20-foot shipping container. And the only things in it that I felt were irreplaceable were the candles that I had from my great grandmother and the crystal that I had from her. And even that is not irreplaceable because I found it on replacements.com. And my artwork and our wedding photos.
Right.
That was it. If any of the other things got thrown overboard, it wouldn't, everything else was replaceable. And yes, it's devastating to have to start from scratch, but it's also can be great if you frame it that way. So I said
Right.
to the shipper, I was like, could you please make sure that my container falls into the sea? And he was like, no one ever said that to me before. And I said to him, I think that I would just rather get the insurance money and start again.
Right. Let's start over.
Let's just start fresh. We're moving to a new place. Let's just start fresh. He's like, seriously, no one has ever said that to me before. And I was like, well, I'm glad I'm the first. But here's the thing. I feel like we were in a new place. Would have starting it over had been so bad? I don't think
I don't
so.
think so.
We were
And
starting over anyways.
yeah, and even just moving. So I've moved several times, and I've always felt like when I moved, because it requires you to touch all of your possessions, you look at them and go, why do I still have this? Or this has been a box since the last time I moved. But instead of making that question and doing something about it, you just pack it and move it again.
Yeah. And you're
And
like, I'll deal with it when I get there.
right? But you won't, because you'll be trying to settle in and unpack, and you'll just stick it in a spot again. And I know that people who've, like, especially with parents right now. So I know my in-laws, when they moved out of their home, due to illness and just getting on, it took 3 months because they had been in their home for so long.
Yeah.
And not that they weren't hoarders at all, but it's also you don't know what their wishes are. It's like, what do I do with all this stuff?
But it just, even if you decide that you're not going to keep anything, just taking it out and boxing it up and schlepping it to the car to take to the Goodwill, it takes a long time.
It
Like,
does.
I'm a professional, okay? And when I clean out my parents' house, I mean, my dad's still living, thank God. But I was cleaning out my mother's stuff and she had spread out over all 4 rooms. But I was just cleaning out all the extra bedrooms, anyways. It literally took me and my daughter a week just to do the 4 bedrooms, and I'm a pro, and I had an assistant, right? Like, it just takes time. You got to take it off the hanger and pack it up and then drag it all out and drive it over. I mean, the people at Goodwill knew us because every time I went there every day, literally with minivans full of garbage bags to give them of
Right.
clothes that, had accumulated over the years. And like, to be honest, in total, I think I've spent almost a month on the house and it's still not finished. Now, it is a little bit more difficult because my dad's still living there. So you have to sort of work around what he wants. But
Right.
like, still, I mean, she isn't alive, and like we could give away anything, anything and everything, and like it still took that significant amount of time.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of stuff, you know?
Have you heard of the book Swedish Death Cleansing?
Yes, I have.
Yes, of course you have. And so I mention it sometimes to my parents. Dad, if you're listening. Because it's like, don't is what I think the premise is, don't download your inability to get rid of things to the people who are gonna clean up after you, kind of thing.
So I have a lot of 60 plus in my decluttering group. And I always say to them, I'm like, you're doing a kindness to your children by living with just the things you need right now. I'm not saying live with nothing. You don't even
No.
need to be minimalist. You don't even need to be a minimalist, but you don't need to keep everything that you keep. And it's a big kindness. And I used to have this discussion with my mother, and she would say to me, well, you can do it when I die. And I was like, thanks. And she's like, because I'll be dead and I won't know. Like, thanks
Thanks,
so
Mom.
much.
And it did take you that long, right? It's just
Yeah.
like, thanks for the gift.
Yeah.
That's not what I
And
wanted from the inheritance.
exactly. But especially when you're grieving, it's hard.
It makes it harder.
It's very hard. So it's, if you can make it easier on your children or your next of kin, I feel like do it. They will appreciate you. And to me, that's like, it's just a final blessing you can give to your next of kin, where, they can look at you fondly and with relief.
I know my husband, one of his uncles, I think he was an engineer. He had a binder on his shelf that when he passed away, you just opened the binder, you made a phone call, and everything was taken care of.
That would be awesome.
He had prearranged every detail of everything, like
Wow.
everything that was going to happen. It all just, because he was a planner, I guess, and it's like, wow, imagine that gift, Mom.
Yeah. So the truth is like with my mom, we knew, she had stage 4 cancer, so we knew the end was near. And we had talked about her end of life wishes. She told us what jewelry was supposed to go to who, and she told us, where things were. I mean, not everything. There were things that we forgot, but now I said to my dad, I'm like, listen, I really want to have this discussion with you. And we talk about it a lot because, I want to respect his wishes. But a lot of people think it's like taboo to talk about that. But I think that is organized.
And healthy.
It
We all
is.
know
It's
what's
like,
going to happen. It's 100%
yeah.
going to happen. We haven't figured out how to avoid it yet. So be cool with it. Right?
Yeah, but I just feel like, if you love somebody, you want to respect what they want.
Mhm.
And also, like, for example, with my parents, their plots were like part of their synagogue membership. So like they paid extra for it, obviously, but it's like, included, or they get these certain spaces, and they had funeral insurance or whatever. And like, they have it, they're taking care of it. But if you don't know about it, you run the risk of paying twice,
Right.
which it's not cheap.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like we're going to be like, oh, I lost $100. I mean, this is thousands of dollars. And like, I don't know about you, but that's a lot to me. And like, I find it to be like, it's feels good to me to know that he took care of it. And I can just follow through with the plan.
Yeah. And you don't want to, I don't want to make decisions. You can't make decisions with a clear head when you're trying to grieve.
Yeah,
right.
It's true.
Right. There's just too many other things going on. Not that I thought
Actually,
decluttering was going to go to death, but who?
But I'll just say something that's really excellent about the Jewish religion. And there is a time between when a person dies. Okay, so a mourner in Judaism is officially someone who lost either one of their parents, their father, their mother, their sister, their brother, their spouse, or either a son or a daughter. So you can go into mourning for 7 people. Everybody else is peripheral. You can mourn that person, but you're not an official mourner.
Okay.
And the people who are official mourners are exempt from the commandments, the positive commandments, between the time that someone dies and the time that there is the funeral, because the idea is that you're preoccupied with dealing with giving someone the respect that they need, the person that you're mourning, and that you'll be too grief stricken to deal with anything other than that. And what is so, I mean, Judaism is really, really strict.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of surprising when you see that you get sort of like this free pass for certain things during that time. But it just goes to show how serious that time frame between when the person dies and the time that they're buried is. And I think, we're seeing that now, like in England. I know a lot of people are complaining. I mean, also you have that in Canada too, right? Like next week, everything's closed, right?
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, I just dated the podcast. Sorry.
That's all right.
But next week, on Monday, everything is closed because it's the funeral. And I think that, I know a lot of people were complaining, but I feel like that is exactly what it is. It's like this portion is how we show respect, by taking time off and organizing what we need to organize in this time. And I mean, to me, that's just really an amazing amount of sensitivity.
And I mean, it's like, the Queen is like an epic example because she's like such an icon. She's around
Yeah.
for so long, and everybody has mixed feelings about it. But you got to respect someone like they
Who
did,
held their office for that long.
and they never really varied from their,
Yes,
they were true
she
to
never
themselves the whole
complained.
time.
Right,
And
she never complained, and she worked till the very last day.
right, and so it's like, give her her due. And yes,
Yeah.
we're going to just pause for that day
Yeah.
and say, give her her due. And I think it's so interesting. You're like, that's like, yes, we're I'll say it wrong.
Judaism. Judaism.
I
That's
don't know why
okay.
I can't get my tongue around it, but it's
Yeah,
so
it's
strict.
okay.
Except here, you can, we'll let you off the hook for this little piece
Yeah.
of time, which is profoundly telling of that time, right?
Not everything. Some things. I mean, we have positive commandments and negative commandments in Judaism. So all the positive ones are, you're exempt from, like
Okay.
making blessings and things like that. Because the idea is just that you're,
Right.
sidetracked. But I don't want to give it like.
So you're still not allowed to go out and murder someone.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, good.
Exactly.
Good.
It's
That
just
would be
like,
bad.
okay, but you don't have to go to prayers.
Okay.
You
And the first book you talked about, because I'm fascinated, was called Zero Waste Home.
Zero Waste Home by Bea Johnson.
Because that's, I'm in that world and I'm like, how come I never heard of that one?
Oh, it's a great book. And
Okay.
she really lays it out, like how to really reduce. And you probably have seen her. She's the lady. There's two like main ladies. There's her, and then there's Lauren Singer, and she's Trashes for Tossers.
Oh, right. Okay.
And they both have like just a mason jar of trash.
Yes. Okay. That's so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
My brain is going all over the place, but I'm going to rein it in. It's okay, Heather. Pull it in.
You
pull
got
it in.
this. You got this.
Yeah, I got it. And I know you mentioned it briefly. So you help people through, do you do one-on-one? Is it all membership?
So, I mean, I don't really like the one-on-one model anymore.
You can only reach so many people.
Yeah. I thought about it, and I feel like I didn't want to. Obviously, everybody wants to, have money and provide for their family, but I felt like I wanted to help the most people possible. So the one-to-one model does not allow that because the price point is very high and it's very exclusive.
Right.
And it's not that I don't do any one-to-ones like in person, but I don't enjoy it as much as the group. I like the group. I feed off the energy in the group. And I like the idea of helping more people. And so I designed this membership. It's called the Journey to Organization membership. And it revolves around a service that I call Power Hours, which are 3-hour sessions that you can come on for as little or as long as you want. Most people stay the whole time, but if you need to jump off, you can. And each person gets their own tailored plan for each session.
Wow.
So you log on and you show me the area you want to work on. I tell you where to start. I give you 15 minutes, and then I check on you every 15 minutes. And then I'm doing that with each person. And for those people who have ADHD who come on and who need the quiet, I move them to a breakout room so they could sit there quietly. And then I either pull them in or I check on them. And it really works. And
That's
I think
brilliant.
it works. Thank you. I think it works for 2 reasons. The first is because you have an expert guide who is seeing your stuff, but is not standing there in your space making you feel judged, which is huge. And the other reason it works is because everybody else on the call is doing the same thing as you. And it feels less lonely.
Right.
It feels like you have a crew, a partnership, like you have people who are there who will give you the encouragement that you need. It doesn't feel like that. It is that. And it feels good to have that. And I think that is where the success in decluttering comes from in these groups, is not only from the expert advice, but also from the group being supportive. So when someone shows their work, everybody's cheering for them. And that feels good.
It does. And I have been that person who's opened the closet of stuff and you feel like you get scared and you shut it.
Yeah.
Because there's no one there.
Because you don't know where to start.
Exactly. You don't know where to start. And there's no one there saying, you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah. And there's no one telling you how to do it.
Yes.
Because you look at it and you're like, oh, no.
Right.
And you're like, I will do this later. But later never comes because it's always going to be the same problem that I will do this later because I don't know where to start. So when you log in with me, I tell you where to start. Start on the first shelf, start on the second shelf. Just take it out. Let's look. Let's see what's there. Right. And I walk you through it. And then you tell me what's there. And I tell you how to sort it and how to organize it. And I make suggestions about boxes or bins or whatever it is that you need to organize it. But what I find is 75% of the time, somebody already has an appropriate sorter for that space, or they've gotten rid of so much stuff that they don't even need to purchase anything else because the rest of the stuff just sort of sits in the space nicely.
Nice. That's
amazing.
That sounds so cool. I'm very excited.
It's such a great, it's just such a great place to be. I'm so happy when I'm in a power hour. Right. And my kids know, they're like, Mommy, you're doing power hours now? And I'm like, yes. They're like,
time for the power hour. And they know to be quiet.
They know.
And we have a super special thing for everybody listening, right? So you are being super generous, and
we'll do a giveaway.
Yes, we're doing a giveaway.
For one person to have silver membership, which is 2 power hours per month, plus all the other benefits of membership. And everybody who doesn't win that will have a coupon code for $20 off any level of silver, gold, and platinum level of membership for the first month.
Right.
So you can try it at a discount.
So to be entered to win the big prize, we're going to ask you to leave a comment on the episode. So I know that I'll gather them around because the episodes do go out to YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn and Apple and Google and Spotify. I'll just say those 5 because I'm not going to go to all the other ones. Go to one of those ones, leave a comment on how awesome decluttering is.
Yeah. But we need a timeline and end date, right?
Oh, right. So this is going to it's September what day is it?
16th.
It's going to air on the 23rd.
Oh, okay.
So it's right after the autumn equinox. Now we just gave it away. It's not really live. It's recorded.
We had to pre-record this one.
Yeah, we had to pre-record it. So it's going to air on the 23rd. So let's give you to Canadian Thanksgiving, just to give some time. Yeah. So Canadian Thanksgiving, for those who don't know, is October the 10th.
Okay.
We go way earlier than the
Yeah.
US because we like to
Okay.
get our Thanksgiving in. We're like, we need some turkey
Before it gets cold.
before it gets cold. Yeah, exactly. So by Canadian Thanksgiving, I'm writing that down so I don't forget. I
Okay.
will gather up all of the comments from all of the sources, and I will reach out to the person who wins the big prize. And then I think the coupon code I will send out.
The coupon code will be Heather20 to save $20 off the silver, gold, or
yes, and that'll be in
membership.
the show notes.
And the link to buy will be on the show notes.
Yes. So your link to join the membership, because I know you all need decluttering. Because I do. So
well, I can't wait to meet you all.
Yeah, it's so amazing. Oh my gosh, Rebekah, thank you so much for coming
Heather,
and spending time with
you.
me. I love talking to my celebrities because I'm like, what? And then I always get something new and exciting. And
what'd you take away from today?
Well, I'm definitely checking out the Zero Waste book.
Oh, good.
I had never thought of decluttering with a posse of people, so I think that's brilliant, and I'm super excited by that thought. So, like,
excellent.
I'm jamming on the declutter now. It's like Yahoo! I Marie Kondoed like 5 years ago, but you don't if you're not paying attention.
It comes back because she doesn't have a system, right? So we talk, that is one thing that I talk about with my members a lot. And also when you, I think one of the things that makes me different also is that I focus more on zero waste. So I'm teaching also my members like how to reduce their waste in general. Like I'm asking them to make switches to a reusable water bottle, let's say, or instead of having a million disposable razors, why not just buy the metal blades with the safety razor? They take up less space. It's better for the environment. Maybe you want to switch to bar soap so you don't have a shampoo graveyard in your house, right? There are so many things you could do. And people always say to me, they're like, zero waste seems like it takes up much more energy. But actually, in the long run, in the startup, yeah, it does. It takes some effort to begin. But once you get it going, it's actually much easier because there's less schlepping of stuff. I mean, one of the things that I have found is that, for example, we switched from buying seltzer to getting a soda stream.
Oh, yeah.
We used to go through like 20 or 30 bottles of seltzer a week. And this takes up so much less space, but also I don't have to drag the boxes of seltzer in 19 steps from the car, and then when they're empty, I don't have to take them back for the bottle deposit or to the recycling. Like it's those little things, and people are like, yeah, it's not a big deal, but actually it does take a lot of time and a lot of energy. And while the investment for, let's say, a soda stream up front it's
not that much.
Okay, but it's an investment still.
It is an investment. It is an investment. It's more than buying a bottle of seltzer.
Right. It's easier in the long run than the time that you waste doing all that schlepping. And people don't look at it that way. I mean, so many people, I don't use disposables in my house, really. There's only 3 times a year I use them. And I mean, there are times when people will be on a power hours call with me and they'll be organizing their disposables cabinet. And if you think about it, it's like, okay, you're spending money and time organizing something that you're literally just going to throw away when you're done using it.
Right.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. I understand the need to do that, especially for people who are giving up, and like, yeah, you should definitely use up what you have. But the point is we spend a lot of time organizing things that are just going to be thrown away. And that's not a good use of the short amount of time that we have on this earth.
No.
And
my mind even goes further too. There's the energy of you storing it and buying it and schlepping it. But beyond that, there's the energy it took to create it and then to repurpose, recycle it. Like it's larger than just that. My mind goes even bigger.
Yes, I go to that bigger place too, but most people don't.
Right.
And that's fine. I'm not asking you to, like, it bothers me that manufacturers are not more responsible for the products that they're putting into the world, and they should be, but that's a whole nother episode.
Yes. Oh my God.
That's a
We could
completely
be
different
here all
discussion.
day.
Yes, I told you that when we started. I could talk to you all day. But the point is really, like, we don't think about it in that way. So those are discussions that we will definitely be having during power hours, and you'll see, like, the reason why the group also works is because over time you're hearing these things and you're shifting in your mindset and you're changing your purchasing habits and
That
you're
makes me even more
changing
excited about that group program.
because I'm teaching you tips and tricks for how to avoid getting back into this place in the first place,
Right.
because we don't want to
Amazing.
go back there. That's like
Yeah.
losing 100 pounds and then gaining back 150.
Right. Wow. So awesome. Thank you so much. I want to ask
You're
you,
welcome.
did you have a
Yeah.
final word of wisdom for people? So you
I
don't have
think
to.
no. I think the if you don't take away anything else from today, I feel like as long as you can take away that if you have a clutter problem, that doesn't make you a bad person, and there is no judgment. But if you do have a problem, the only way to get out of it really is with some help.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be from me, and it doesn't even need to be from a professional. But when you partner with somebody, your spouse, a friend, it makes the progress much, much greater. And so if it's a problem for you, please seek help. And especially if you're in like serious hoarding territory, then you really need professional help. But even if you're not in that, like if you're not that deep in, uh, seeking somebody to be your partner is hugely, hugely helpful and will get you much, much further along than just trying to do it by yourself.
That's brilliant. It is true. That's why you have the call a friend option, right? So
Yeah.
you get some help. Beautiful. I'm not even going to add to that because that's brilliant. My
Thank you.
friend Rebekah, so awesome to chat with you. Oh my gosh, I feel like we should do an environmental episode too.
We totally can. I'd be
Right,
happy
we
to.
totally will. So, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you,
Thank you
thank
for
you, thank
having
you.
me.
I really appreciate all of your wisdom. And friends, comments, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Google, and Apple. Send some love out, send some comments out. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Let's talk about decluttering. And hey, you might even be like the lucky person who gets to spend
I hope you
some
are.
time with Rebekah to declutter, even when you think you don't have clutter. I mean, sometimes there's probably something. There's always something,
There's
right?
always something. There's always something.
Thank you so much. Have an amazing day, my friends. And